Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. You're here with Amanda Hall, Psychic, here on Moonstruck TV. Here on the Gold Coast in Australia, where we've got a very beautiful, hot, sticky, summery day. So I know those of you that are in the Northern Hemisphere and you're freezing your tootsies off, trying to find another coat and put another log on the fire, we'll keep you warm here from Australia. It's a beautiful summer's day here. I'd like to kick the show off this week with just a little selfish sort of segment. It's here in Australia this week. We're celebrating Australia Day on the 26th. And for those of you that live in different parts of the world, and you all have your own national holiday where, you know, you celebrate what your country stands for and are proud to do so. Well, we do that here in Australia on the 26th of January. Some people sort of say it's an ambiguous sort of day because they're trying to sort of name it Invasion Day, when we white people invaded the Indigenous communities of this land a little over 200 years ago. I would like to think that we've risen above that and we are collectively just one country, no matter where you come from, what colour your skin is, your religion, your race, your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs even, that we can all come together on that day and throw another lamb chop on the barbie and have some fun in the sun and remember what we have in this country that we should all be so very, very proud of. It is known as the lucky country, affectionately, and I think it is the lucky country. I've been fortunate enough to travel right the way around most of the beautiful parts of this country, and I've never actually been overseas because I've always believed I needed to see completely Australia first before I did that. Well, I've just about done that, so watch out, world. Anyway, we're going to kick the show off as we usually do with the Simply Tarot card of the week, and it's a rather interesting card this week because it's one of the cards that people sort of look at it and go, oh, I don't like this one. It's a rather ambiguous card. It has a couple of different layers to it, so I'd like to share it with you. It is actually the Two of Swords. Now, the Two of Swords, when you look very carefully to this card, it's a lady sitting blindfolded with her back towards the water. So it is the card of peace and harmony, needing to take the blindfold off and keep reassessing the situation at hand. Now, where I get peace and harmony from this is she's sitting there quite comfortably with her back to the water, not at all frightened, worried, concerned about the waves breaking behind her, being washed out to sea or anything like that. So she's in a very tranquil spot. And the blindfold on the card, when you look at it very, very carefully, you nearly need a microscope to see it, but she can actually see out underneath the blindfold. So that's why I suggest to you that you keep reassessing any major situation that may be going on in your life at the moment. Maybe you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle yet to make a decision or to move forward. So it's one of those times where you can really sit there and just contemplate your navel and allow yourself to do so quite comfortably, knowing that maybe it's not decision time just yet. So that's always a little bit of a tricky one for people when they first start learning tarot, is that they want everything to be perfect right at the onset. And the one thing I suppose I've learnt with working with the tarot most of my life is nothing is set in concrete. Nothing is always exactly the same. There's always many variations, very, very many deviations from what we actually see. And if I can suggest to anybody that's learning, whether it's the tarot, numerology, palmistry, astrology, whatever it might be, always listen to your instincts. Always listen to your gut feeling or that thought that's running around in your head. Even though you may have been taught a particular way, it doesn't mean that there can't be another layer or another dimension to the information that you're getting and the way that you need to look at it. Everything that we teach as teachers is only a guideline. It's there for you to then add your own interpretation, your own feelings, your own flavour to make it uniquely yours. And that's something I think people have long forgotten. Everybody seems to be trying to copycat everybody else and be a clone of somebody that they admire instead of being themselves. And I think that's the important thing. And for those of you that watch the show regularly, you'll know I've been in the industry a very, very long time, over 40 years now. And I suppose one of the reasons I've had such longevity is I've never tried to be anybody else other than me. And I was always just happy to plod along at my own pace and do whatever I was doing and whatever was the next thing that came into my mind or crossed my path as the next direction to take my work. And it was nothing that I set out to do and in a particular fashion that I, crossed off a list. It just evolved as I went along. And I think that's sort of one of the things that a lot of the younger psychics today haven't really quite grasped yet. You don't learn it all in a weekend. You don't learn it all in a year. It takes many, many years and a lot of life experience and a lot of common sense and having really good listening skills and working with your client or the person that you're working with and having compassion and understanding. Because a lot of times when people go for a reading, they're very distressed and very distraught about issues and situations in their life that they feel that they can't find resolution or solutions or answers to or have no control over. So it takes somebody with a tremendous patience to do this sort of work, and it's also, very taxing on the person themselves emotionally and every other way. So you have to be very careful if you're going to head into the world of psychic phenomena and being a psychic and working with energy. You have to really need to learn, number one, to protect yourself and to be vigilant with that, but you also need to allow yourself some downtime, some time for you to just be yourself, not to be that person that's helping everybody else. So as we move on through the show, this week I looked at the range of 27 candles and I thought, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one will I go for? And then I have a habit of I shut my eyes, and when I open them, it's whichever one jumps out at me is speaking to me or calling me is usually the one I go with. And interestingly enough, this week, the one that jumped out at me every time I shut my eyes, and I did it 3 times because I thought, well, I just want to make sure I'm not just looking at this because it's Australia Day, and I think it's a day where we should be healing the nation, coming together as a nation, that it is really meant for everybody around the globe. And I actually kept coming back to the healing candle. So I'm going to go with that because I think as we start, we're nearly at the end of the first month of a new year, and a lot of us still feel a little bit overwhelmed with the things that we're supposed to be doing. People have set their intentions, they've done their resolutions, they've tried to be positive. It's a new year, so we've got to have new direction, and we're supposed to have all this enthusiasm and renewed energy. And all of a sudden, well, how come I don't feel the same as everyone else? Well, I'll let you in on a secret. A lot of people I've been working with and dealing with and messaging me, particularly in the last 10 days, are saying exactly that. I feel like I'm the odd one out. I should be more positive. I should be this. As I spoke about on the show last week, we had so much emphasis of 6 planets sitting in Capricorn last week. And if anybody didn't feel as if they were overwhelmed and suppressed in some way and sort of exhausted, there was something wrong with you. You were the abnormal one. So at least this week things are lightening up a little bit. So I think that's a really good opportunity for us to then look at healing something in our lives that we need to do. So how would we use a healing candle, I hear you ask? Well, what we would do is, obviously, we would still work with it in the same way as we do our other soy candles. We would write down on a piece of paper what we need to change in our lives or the things that we need help with. And in this case, it's, healing of us. So it can be the healing of our emotions. It could be the healing of a relationship. It could be the healing of a physical illness. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not a miracle worker, and I'm not God. I can't part the sea and we can all walk through it. All as I can suggest to you is if you have the power of positive thinking and you believe that you're going to overcome something or you can learn to deal with your illness or your condition, then you will put yourself in a much, much better position to be able to do so. And again, I'm going to brag a little bit here. I watched an interview yesterday on one of the social media platforms with Olivia Newton-John, who was on the Dr. Oz show out of the USA, and she was talking about her second battle with cancer, and she hadn't had cancer for 25 years. And I'm saying I'm bragging a little bit because Olivia is one of Australia's finest singers. And she talked about, she doesn't look at herself as being a statistic, that she looks at herself as doing the very best that she can do and not fighting with the cancer, but working with it and telling it literally to leave her body. And I thought that was a really positive way that we could all look at how we need to deal with something that when a hiccup does come into our lives, things come into our lives that we didn't bargain on or weren't planning for, and most of us never plan on being sick. And I thought it was interesting the way her and Dr. Oz, so if you get a chance to look at that interview with Olivia Newton-John and Dr. Oz, you'll see how uplifting it was and how very positive it was. And they were also discussing the new medical breakthroughs with medicinal cannabis and things like that, and how had Olivia used that in her treatment. And I'm talking about she had a resurgence of cancer in less than the last 12 months, because she was here in Australia doing a tour with one of my other ultimate favourite singers, John Farnham. And she'd no sooner finished a tour with him and they'd brought out a lovely Christmas album, and she was struck down with cancer again. So, sometimes we can't plan for things, and that's what I'm trying to share with you. So the healing candle would be, in say, Olivia's case, to put down there that she'd like the cancer to leave her life. that, you know, she may be focusing on other areas, you know, focusing on better nutrition or more sleep or whatever the case might be, and you can ask for help to achieve those things. So this week we're going to wrap up our series, our 4-part series in Pluto, and in a little bit of a way I'm a little bit sad because that means that we've covered the 10 planets over the duration of since I've been on air with A1R Psychic Radio, and this is the completion of the 10 planets, and the last 3 planets in this series is Capricorn, Aquarius and Pisces. So if you've got Pluto and Capricorn, well, Pluto and Capricorn does actually sort of go hand in hand, and most Capricornians know fully aware at the moment of how Pluto works, is slow, deliberate and definite and sort of shaking everything up politically and governments and all that sort of stuff around the world. So Pluto is not considered a personal planet. He's considered a sort of a very outer planet, but can have personal ramifications on us. So if you were born with Pluto and Capricorn, and there would only be babies that would be born with that, or children in the last 10 or 12 years, you'll probably find that they're going to be reasonably disciplined, particularly when it comes to very serious matters or things that they need to take seriously in their life. We may even find a generation of children that are more focused on how to earn money but not necessarily kill themselves in the process, you know, finding that work-life balance, which seems to have eluded a lot of us for a long time. So we may see some changes in structures in the next 20 and 30 years as these children grow up into how we structure our work-life balance going forward. So that'll be an interesting time to be alive. So Pluto in Aquarius, well, I don't know that we've actually ever had any people born with Pluto in Aquarius yet, because Pluto was only discovered a little over 100 years ago, and he takes 240 years to go around the zodiac. So we're yet to see how, I suppose, this is going to manifest. Hopefully I'll see it in my lifetime. We'll see how Pluto will manifest in Aquarius. But I would certainly be looking for some major breakthroughs, that people have a different way of looking at technology, different thought patterns, being able to harness maybe some new and what was once considered wacky or way out ideas of bringing some stability into the planet. I'd like to think that we might see some revolutionary breakthroughs when Pluto goes into Aquarius in a way of how we're going to look at renewable energy. Maybe we'll come up with a couple of other solutions that we haven't even thought of yet that can help save the planet. So when Pluto moves into Pisces, which is still quite a way off, and children will be born under that sign, I think we're going to see a real resurgence of children that are very much comfortable in their own skin, of being able to be creative, of being able to be very spiritual, very much in touch with their own emotions, their own feelings, and not feel as if in any way that they're uncomfortable with it or they've got to hide from it or not talk about, you know, that they see dead granny or somebody that's passed over, and it'll be considered quite normal. So we can only live in hope in those sort of things. So before we take our first caller, we'll have a little quick trip around the universe, see what's happening in our part of the world. This week I'm pleased to say that, you know, not so much intensity in Capricorn as there has been, and I'm not even going to talk about Capricorn this week. I thought we'd have a little bit of a change. We're going to talk about the Sun holding hands with Venus. Now, we talk about the Sun holding hands with Venus quite often on the show. This week it's in Aquarius. So the Sun is the energy. The Sun has moved into the Aquarian energy for its 30-day stint this year. And the Sun in Aquarius always, to me, brings a freshness. It's sort of like we've got over the start of the new year. We're starting to get a little bit of energy back, starting to get some ideas and things sort of starting to zap into our brains now that we've got over the holiday season and all the fun and regalia that went with that. And then we had a little bit of stability while things moved into Capricorn. And now it's sort of ideas season. It's time to get out there and try different things and look for those light bulb moments. So when we see the Sun holding hands or conjunct Venus, what we see is opportunities here for people to maybe start new relationships. So if you've been one of those people that's been single for a while and really think it's time now that you had a special someone in your life, well, step out of your comfort zone, go somewhere different, join a bowling team or start bushwalking or join a dating site, do something different, something that takes you out of your comfort zone. And you might just find that Cupid might shine on you, and you might just happen to meet that special someone that's going to be in your life for a long time. For those of you that have partners in your life already and seem to be quite relaxed and settled with that, be aware that this can be the time if there's been some tricky situations that you need to talk about. You might want to move house, or you might want to make an addition to the family and you're not sure how your partner's going to cope with that. Now's the perfect time to bring that up in the next 3 to 4 days. So it's the perfect time to have those sort of conversations we've been putting off for a while. So finally this week I want to also talk about the moon. Now the moon is the emotional planet, and we know that the moon moves very quickly around the zodiac. He only stays in a sign for 2.5 days. So he does luckily move, or she moves quite quickly, so that we don't get bogged down in the very intense energy that the moon can bring sometimes. But the moon at the moment is also holding hands or conjunct Uranus. So we've got emotions on one hand and we've got Uranus, the planet of the unusual and unexpected, both sitting in Aries. So it's a very me first, a very selfish sort of energy, a very dynamic energy, a restless energy. So it's sort of saying to me that some people can find that they'll lose their temper fairly quickly and tempers will fray quite quickly. But other people might find that this is a great time where they really feel that they're, emotionally they've never felt better. They feel like they're 10 foot tall and they can climb Mount Everest. And, this is a nice energy if we have the secondary part, particularly if you're going out, stepping out of your comfort zone, looking for the potential new love in your life. You could be very magnetic and electric and really attract that special someone to you. So we're going to take our first caller, which is Teresa in Orlando, Florida. Are you there, Teresa?
Yes, ma'am.
How can I help you today, sweetie? Have you got a question I can answer for you?
Yeah. Okay, so I went through surgery to have my reproductive tubes repaired, and we ended up having a child, but he passed away in utero 3 years ago in December, and we've been trying on and off ever since, but we've not had any luck, and I was curious if there's some type of a block or what I could do to get that spirit baby to come to me.
Okay, look, sometimes, Teresa, I think we get ourselves so tense up in our own physical bodies trying to make this miracle happen that we sometimes sort of block it. And, look, I mean, if there's nothing medically wrong that says that there isn't any reason why you shouldn't conceive, then it usually comes back to an emotional thing, and it's not usually even something that we do consciously. You've been blessed with one beautiful child. Can I suggest to you to sort of maybe both you and your partner look at taking up some new hobby? Quite often you find when you decide you're going to take up something that's going to be fairly time-consuming and you've refocused your energies in that way, bingo, the next thing you know, you're expecting a baby. Because we've relaxed and taken the focus off being so constantly, the main thing that we're focusing on in our lives. But I'm not even sure that it's necessarily even an emotional blockage with you. I think this is something that sort of goes way back in your soul's journey where I don't know whether this time in this lifetime you had trouble withholding pregnancies.
No, I've had, I already have three living children. He was my fourth.
Yeah, but what I picked up in your soul's energy was there was one particular incarnation where you weren't able to take the babies to term, and that sort of set in there a sort of a psychological blockage that, am I worthy of having another child? Is it really the right thing to do? Am I being greedy? All those sort of things. So that's why I'm suggesting maybe just sort of sit down, if you're a meditative type person, and even if you're not, just sit down quietly somewhere where you feel at your strongest and just let your mind go still and see what comes in and out. And you may just find it'll be something simple like that you're taken back to a time and a place that don't even look familiar to you, but you'll have a couple of words that'll come in and then sort of release those. And how you can release those is write those words on a piece of paper, read them out aloud, either burn them or rip them up into a million pieces and put them in the trash or bury them in the garden or whatever you feel comfortable with so that you're physically releasing it out of the soul. But I've got a very strong feeling that there's going to be the pitter-patter of little feet. I feel there's going to be another little person coming.
I hope so, because my husband don't have any biological children. I think that's what's weighing on me the most.
Yeah, but do you see what I'm saying? I think it comes back to a soul thing with you, and it may be, as I said, a past life thing where, it's a psychological blockage that's not coming from this incarnation. Because I think you and your husband have been together in other lifetimes, and maybe this is the energy that you're you're recalling now on a soul level, and that's why it's been difficult to sort of conceive. There's no reason why you can't have a baby, and I just sort of feel if we can take those steps and maybe take up something else and divert the energy, I think then we're going to have the news of a baby on the way. And I certainly don't think you're giving birth in October, but they were showing me October. So whether that's when you announce to the world that you're having a baby, or whether that's when you first find out you're having a family, but October seems to be very significant.
Okay. And one more question. My dad recently passed away, and I had a dream of him with angels taking him to heaven. Was that really him? Did he really get taken in my dream? Because I could touch him. It was real.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely your dad's way of connecting with you. And quite often when they pass over, that's their first point of contact with us, is they come to us in a dream, because we're more accepting of it that way than we are if, we saw an apparition standing in front of us, or, Dad's picture moved on the bookcase. We'd sort of think, oh, somebody else must have moved that. So coming in a dream, we don't mistake that and we don't question it as much. No, Dad's around you and he's actually nursing the baby. So I'm taking from that there's definitely a baby. He kept showing me.
Yeah, my son was in my dream with the angels taking my dad to heaven. It was amazing.
Yeah, but Dad's actually nursing the baby you're yet to have.
Yeah, that makes sense because he loves kids.
Yeah. Okay, my lovely. Lovely to talk to you. We have to move on. We've got Heather in Boston, Massachusetts. Are you there, Heather?
Hello.
Hello, Heather. How can I help you, sweetie?
Hi. I've lost a ton of people in the past 2 years, including my father and my brother. They passed within the same year, like really suddenly too, and my very best friend.
So you're struggling with that a bit, Heather?
I am. I really am.
Yeah, I can understand why you'd be struggling with it. And if I can be blunt with you, I think both your dad and your brother were struggling with the fact that they went so quickly. Neither of them were sort of expecting that it was their turn. So
Right.
they struggled with it a bit too. And that sort of could be what you're picking up a bit too, that, there's been different times where you haven't been able to really even sort of get out of bed and really want to get going with the day because you feel so overwhelmed and so heavy. That's when you've been really connecting with either one or both of their energies. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's not. What I'm trying to do is help you understand why you felt that way and why you've struggled so much. Look, I know both of them have gone through to the other side, if you want to put it that way, where they're in a safe spot and, they're accepting now that they're gone. But the thing is, what they both are asking of you is that they want to see you smile again. They keep telling me that they've tried to send you messages that it's not that you're not receptive to them. I think you're so overwhelmed with your grief and, the early stages of grief of, the terrible loss feeling, that you're not sensing them reaching out to you to give you some comfort. And that's starting to worry them. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't feel that they're helping you overcome this in any way. So, grief's a very personal thing. Heather, it's not something that you can say by this month it should be this and by that month it should be that. It doesn't work that way. And I can honestly tell you, sweetie, there'll be days even in 20 years' time that you'll still have a bad day. And, the grief does get less. And if I can suggest to you, if you can go to the local library or purchase a book, anything that Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote on grief is a good place to start. But one particular book was a favourite of mine of hers, was called On Death and Dying. And she talks about the different stages of grief and she helps you understand that you're not alone, that you're not the only one that's feeling this way. Some people breathe through one of the 7 stages of grief quicker than others. And we can all get locked in certain stages. And you, to me, feel as if you're very locked at the very beginning almost, that you don't know what to do with yourself. You're sort of, there's nothing you could have done, darling, to make it any different. I just know your dad particularly is very concerned about you because you're still his little girl. And he feels he's supposed to be making your world all right and he can't do that for you. So something else that you might find comforting was something that another psychic taught me many, many years ago when I lost my husband, when my children were very small. And she said to me, have a conversation with him out loud as you go to bed. Tell him about your day. Tell him that, you know, what the kids were up to, how you were feeling, you haven't paid the phone bill or whatever it might be. She said, and then say to him, you know, if you've got a particular question you want answered, tell him you want the answer in your head first thing in the morning when you wake up. She said, and then whatever comes into your mind in the morning is their guidance. And I've worked with that over the last 30-odd years, and I can assure you, once you get into the rhythm of that, Heather, it is actually quite comforting because you don't feel as if you're alone. You do feel as if you've still got a connection with them. And, you know, then they always connect with us in different ways. Some people see them in dreams. Some people smell them. Some people think they see them out of the corner of their eye. Other people say, oh, gee, I wish Dad had stopped moving his photo on the bookcase. Or I feel Dad's eyes are following me from the photo as I walk around the room. There's all different ways. Some people send feathers. Some people it's a music of the song, something that you can relate to. There's thousands of different ways that they can connect. But what I want to see for you, Heather, is that we get you past this immediate part of grief so that you can start to live again, because it's important to live again, because they want us to honour that. They want us to live. That's what helps them come to terms with that their time on earth is over. But the soul's journey, the connection together is never severed, never ever.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's my pleasure, sweetie. It's one of the hardest things that people don't like talking about, and grief is such a very personal thing, and we do need to talk about it, and we do need to try and help each other. So, you know, it's important that you just take it minute by minute, darling. Don't even take day by day. Take it minute by minute and just do what feels right for you, and don't let anybody else tell you it's wrong or you shouldn't do that. You do what feels right for you. But I'll keep you in my prayers, sweetheart, and have a good week. But just know that they're always there. And you can have a conversation with Dad, and you can tell him you're having a rotten day and you wish he was here. Or your brother, you know, like if it's something that your brother hasn't done that you've got to do, tell him so. Say, oh, you bugger, I wish you were here doing that for me instead. You know, and it's okay to be yourself.
Oh, thank you so much.
My pleasure, sweetie. Have a great night, and just have a little conversation with before you go to bed. Well, we've come to the end of the show again. The half hour seems to go very quickly. Next week we'll start our brand new 4-part series, and I thought because we're heading into the love time of the year, I thought we'd start a 4-part series on love through the zodiac. So next week we'll be looking at Aries, Taurus and Gemini with love. We'll have our trip around the universe, we'll have our soy candle of the week, and of course we'll have our Simply Tarot card of the week. So I hope in whatever part of the world you're in that you be kind to each other, do something nice for one another, and most of all, smile. Smiles say a lot to everybody, even if we don't speak. A smile brings comfort to people that might have nothing else in their life, but always be kind to each other and look after yourselves and try and smile and do one little thing for yourself each and every day. And I hope that you've enjoyed the show, and we'll do it all again in 7 days. Bye for now.